Take the gameplay of Dead Rising, remove the insane number of zombies, and then you get Dead Rising 4. You know what, never mind. We're going to actually play Vampire Panic. After missing my opportunity to make a video about Live Alive, I'm now going to do a video about another obscure Japanese-only game. I mean, unlike Live Alive, this isn't exactly a hidden classic. And for those of you out there asking for the English translated version, my answer would be I have no idea anymore. I found it a while ago while looking for Phantasy Star 1 and 2 on the PS2 translations. Bet you didn't even know those had PS2 releases. But just Google search, you should come up fine. You play as 3 members of the International Spiritual Liberators Association, ISLA. Rusty, the armor-wearing sword user, obviously the tank of the group, hitting hard and taking some hits. Mary, the Tifa-esque brawler, using the tried-and-true punches and bunches strat, along with her ability to transform into the white-haired half-vampire form, making her damn fear. Mary's mother was bitten by a vampire just before she was born and was raised by the ASLA to fight against vampires. So Asian woman version of Blade. And then we got Abby. He's a gunslinger. And he also wants to be a cosplayer. Fun fact, I almost played that game too. The vampire lord Castaneda has been resurrected and destroying, feeding off the people of Inzelburg, and having his demons ransack the city and the countryside. Our crew, the Hunters of ISLA, are the only things in his way. So like the title suggests, you'll be playing Dead Rising on the PS2, with some dangerous and savage shit going on. You see, this ain't a joke. When this fills up, the Vampire Lord will come after you, and he doesn't care what you're doing. Saving a child, he'll turn them. Making this boy kill his entire family. Some Conan the Barbarian deleted scenes shit. And don't get it twisted, this isn't some planned cutscene. This is just a random event. Castaneda doesn't give a fuck who he feeds on or what they'll change into afterwards. So do your best not to alert him. But that's way more difficult than it seems, because just about everything alerts him. Picking up too many items, saving too many survivors at once, killing too many enemies. All of this pisses him off, and he will charm and feed on you and any survivor stunned. Anyone who's charmed will fight for him, even those uninfected like this nun, now savagely beating a little girl, like it's a Catholic school in the 90s. And if he doesn't turn one of your survivors during one of these attacks, he'll just bite you instead. So now, you're on a time limit that's not very long, and this is an instant game over. Now, just to keep up with the theme of this being Dead Rising Light, the survivors' AI are horrible. Calling them suicidal would be an understatement. They will follow you directly into a group of monsters, actively getting hit. But that's not the worst of it, because after getting hit, that will cause them to become terrified and run around until they run out of stamina. What's that? Oh, you just noticed the blue under their health bars. That's right. They can get tired from running with you from enemies. You have to wait for them to catch their breath before moving forward, even if they're infected and about to die. Let's look at the meters again, just so you can notice that some survivors aren't very durable. And unlike Dead Rising, they can't defend themselves. Every survivor has their own health and stamina meters, varying on size depending on who they are. Like your average blacksmith might have an overabundance of health, same as an ex-ISLA member. But a small child or even a baby, well... The one good thing about all this is that our leader Jin has the ability to purify those that were bitten. So once you get a survivor or yourself back to Sanctuary, they can be saved. Now, to add even further complications, each survivor you rescue will have their own story attached to them. Like 3 of my favorites. To save this family, you must rescue the stepdad first. Then save the mother, because the son will not join you without his mom, and she won't join you without her boyfriend. A woman's husband has been killed by the vampire, and her baby was bitten. So you have to kill the soldiers that are trying to throw it into a pit 300 style, give it back to the mother, and convince them to follow you back to Sanctuary before the baby turns on you. One woman's baby is kidnapped by an infected. Now you must tackle this woman, knocking the baby from her arms, taking it from her, and then talking her into joining you, telling her to wait just so you can put the baby down in front of her actual mom, so she'll come out to get her, then take all 3 of them back while fighting soldiers, and usually, the vampire. All of this while dealing with their stamina and health. And don't forget the fucking horrible AI. I did eventually find a way to deal with the bad AI. It's to tell them to wait in certain locations where they will be safe, while you clear out the demons and soldiers. This is basically Resident Evil 4, guys.
Walk into an area and you say, bitch, dumpster. She goes and hides in the dumpster. Guess what? No one can fuck with her in the dumpster. You kill everyone in the level, you come back and get her. It's so simple.
Shove.
If you're not careful, the vampire can spawn right next to them, or even other demons. If you do leave someone on another screen with enemies on that same screen, they can be killed while you're not there. But this can be manipulated. If you don't feel like fighting the count yourself, and are willing to just sacrifice somebody, just tell them to wait, walk through the screen, come back, one of them will now be infected, and then take them back to get fixed, resetting the alert meter. Now, technically you don't want to do this because it makes the count more powerful, but fuck it, we're on a very dangerous time limit. As the game progresses, the king will decide to go all out, Return of the Living Dead style, eliminating the vampiric and demonic infection. Through an artillery bombardment, destroying the entire area, and now we have until dawn to save as many lives as we can while finding a way to escape. While any and all survivors can die, there are some that are basically mandatory if you want to complete the game. One child needs specifically to be saved by Abby. See, he's very important. That little boy is carrying the ceremonial stake, capable of killing Castaneda. Then, after saving an ex-ASLA member, he'll give you a decoder with the lens missing. Find the lens, and you'll be able to decode a message, teaching you how to use the stake. You need to find 5 ancient gems, put them in the back of the stake to power it, alongside 5 guardians that have them, and you have to save all of them across the countryside. And after that, convincing them to give you their gem. But that's not all. There's a ship hidden underground, missing a steering wheel. And you have to do an arbitrary Resident Evil 1 shotgun puzzle to receive it. But that's it. Now we can leave, except the vampire lord Castaneda shows up for one final showdown, staking him and saving all 47 of the survivors we rescued. Except for one, Jin. He stays behind to open the gate, sacrificing himself for the greater good. And that is it for Vampire... Wait. This video is so much longer. Oh, that's because... we can now play as the vampire lord himself, Count Castaneda. We can go around and kill all of the residents of Inzelburg ourselves. To increase our power, we need to feed off of them, meaning human veals on the menu. Castaneda starts out as a weak old man hopping around like he's a Frogger clone, feeding on the weak and helpless till the final form, flying around, casting spells and teleporting from place to place, going to the actual locations of each survivor to find them from the main campaign, devouring the people there to further increase our stats and become even more powerful. Because this time we're going to defeat those pesky ISLA members, and even they can be devoured, having their own character models when they change. The vampire campaign ends when you finally defeat all 3 members, but there's more to this campaign than you would think. You'll see key moments from the original campaign and how they happened originally, with some fucked up moments. The only thing more evil than us, the Vampire Lord, is the evil soldiers throwing small girls off cliffs, stopping me from eating them at least, unless I reload. Even finding out that Sanatano, the guy in charge of the troops of Vahana, the soldiers we're constantly fighting, is trying to create vampiric monsters using the residents of Inzelburg for his monster army, and trying to remove us from the equation. But after all of this, Castaneda finally defeats the ISLA members. We are taken back to our coffin to meet the true final boss. But Castaneda is far too weak, having his powers absorbed by the true vampire god himself, and is cut down. That's right, the entire vampire campaign is just to set up the true ending. You want to know how we get it? Like usual, that's right, we complete the entire original campaign in New Game Plus, saving almost everybody, and finally defeating the final real boss. You see, Jin was the true vampire the entire time, meaning when he stayed behind to open the gates for us so that we could leave, he stayed behind. That's why the after credits text talks about a vampire still roaming the countryside. But after completing the vampire campaign, we're given the information that we need. There's a higher power out there. So after defeating the fake Castaneda, we fight the real vampire Lord Castaneda. I didn't have a very hard time with this fight. Mary's just too good of a character. But now someone else has to keep that gate open for the survivors to escape. So why wouldn't it be the fake Castaneda, saving all those he ate in the previous playthrough? I've been working on this series for the last 2 years, and I have reluctantly found out that Japanese game development is a rabbit hole that always goes deeper. I always find a weird game like this that has producers and game designers like publisher Sammy Corporation or the developers Alpha System Co. that work on shit like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Scarlet Nexus, and Devil May Cry 5, alongside legacy titles like Lunar Silver Star Story or early Guilty Gear games. Even some Tales of titles. This game was originally released with a demo, Zone of the Enders with Metal Gear Solid 2 style. What was the demo, you ask? Berserk Millennium Falcon Arc. Another game that wasn't released to the Western world, with a somewhat decent translation now. But, fun fact for you, the Berserk Millennium Falcon Arc was released the same year, just later on. And no, that's not the Sega Dreamcast Berserk. That would be Sword of the Berserk, Guts Rage. A very challenging game that some people theorize is the template for the Souls franchise, and may have been what revolutionized QuickTime events. Actually, speaking of templates, that brings us back to Vampire Panic, which again is theorized to be the template for Dead Rising, even though there is no real link or information at all really. All information about this game is basically non-existent at best. I mean, did you know gaming found nothing on Vampire Panic, and why it wasn't released in the Western world? Now, this is just a theory at this point, but come on, we all know the real reason. This technically should have been my Halloween video, but it isn't really bad enough, so I decided on something a little bit weirder. And if you want to watch that, you're going to need to subscribe.